I mean, it's sick that these people, the government can't just leave us all the fuck alone. They're sick fucks.
Other than PayPal, there wasn't a way of moving money on the internet in an easy and cheap and nice way, helping a charity raise money that PayPal can come and freeze that. Now, about 10 years later, PayPal is accepting Bitcoin.
Our generation is the first generation that's worse off than our parents' generation.
Listen, well, this is President Trump's party, and I'm the chairman of it. And obviously, he's fully embraced crypto and Bitcoin. Ultimately, it's all about freedom, and it's about safeguarding innovation and the freedoms that we all love.
The government obviously trying to ban self-custody would be a horrible thing.
A lot of people make the mistake that Bitcoin is fighting the dollar, when in fact, you store value, save value in Bitcoin. And who in the right mind would try to compete with the dollar? It's accepted around the world, and it's easily spent and understood. But you don't want to save it.
The next panel we have focuses on the intersection of the revolutionary ideas behind Bitcoin and the potential for control. How do we reconcile the ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by these larger financial entities and potentially government entities as well? We have an incredible panel. We have Matty of the Consensus Protocol as the moderator. Woo. We have Lepard, author of The Big Brits, absolute G. We have Joe Gruters, chairman of the RNC. Round of applause. Yes, more applause. We have Charlie Shrem of the Charlie Shrem Show. And finally, we have CJ Konstantinos of People's Reserve. Please put your hands together for our next speaker. Thank you.
Oh, it's nice. Nice and fishy. I'm excited to be here today with you guys. I started mining 8 years ago by going to Best Buy to buy GPUs. And now I'm sitting here with the chairman of RNC in Washington, D.C. So it's very clear the industry has evolved. Things have changed over time. Our panel today is going to discuss the system of freedom that Bitcoin was formed to represent, and does represent, and the intersection that continuing financialization of the asset. I'm joined by 4 great speakers here, and you guys want to introduce yourselves real quick for the audience?
Sure. I'm Lepard. I'm the author of Big Print, which is a sound money book, and I've been a sound money advocate for first in the gold space, and I've migrated into
Joe Gruters, I'm the Republican National Committee Chairman. I'm friends with Charlie Shrem, first and foremost, to the fellow Sarasotan, but I'm also served over the last 10 years in the state legislature, the last 7 as state senator, where I sponsored the blockchain task force, where we brought that forward about 5 or 6 years ago in the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve last year. So glad to be here and thanks for what you're doing.
Hey everyone, I'm Charlie Shrem. I've been in the Bitcoin community for a super long time. At one of the earliest Bitcoin exchanges, BitInstant, back in 2011 for a couple of years, and helped start the Bitcoin Foundation. Traveled all over the world helping unite a lot of different early Bitcoin communities. And since then, I've been hosting my own podcast, The Charlie Shrem Show. I have a really cool research startup working on the future of proof of work, and I'm just really excited to be here.
Woo.
Hello everybody, I'm CJ Konstantinos, founder at People's Reserve. If you guys heard Saylor speak about digital credit, that is our focus. We believe Bitcoin is pristine collateral and that the future of finance is going to be Bitcoin powered.
Gentlemen, a quick opener for each of you. CJ, why don't I start with you? Is the continuing financialization of Bitcoin turning it into a system for control? Or is it still the ultimate system for freedom?
It could go both ways. So we have to be really careful on who we vote for and the type of actions that Joe and his committee are taking to make sure that our leaders are creating a environment that Saylor talked about earlier, the stark difference between what we saw in the previous 4 years to the new administration opens up the door to a whole new realm of opportunity, including innovations like our Bitcoin-powered mortgage, which we would not have been able to even dare to attempt under the previous administration. And for that reason, I think that when you see the type of freedom that you're going to get from embracing Bitcoin, not only as a savings technology, but as a pristine collateral that backs credit that isn't backed by debt or promise, but is backed by equity, that creates a situation where you have security and reduced risk. And that security and reduced risk allows everybody to breathe a little bit easier. It allows the Fed not have to convene every once in a while for an emergency because there's actually something that backs the credit. And when you can take that break and you can take that breather and everybody's a little bit more calm, I think you cross those party lines a little bit more. You shake a few more hands and you get some legislation across the line that can make everybody's life better. And it's funny that that all starts with money.
Good luck following that, Trevor. I'm just kidding. Knock it out of the park.
Question?
I'll ask it again. Is the continuing financialization of Bitcoin turning it into a system for control, or is it still the ultimate system for freedom?
You know, it's been like a spectrum, and it's changed over time. No one has ever been able to say what you can and cannot do with your Bitcoin, and I think that's been like one of its best principles. You know, it's irreversible. It's in your control, not just with money, but there's also data. There's a whole section of things that can be done here. And so over time, as we've looked at it as our sovereign tool, and we've looked at it as something that we want to make the world a better place, over time, that's actually happened. And we've seen it not just on a small scale, on local levels, but it's actually happened on a global scale. And so I personally never saw it, and I never really wanted to go into that like anarchy type of down that bad road of anarchy and saying that Bitcoin was going to be a tool for not controlling the world. But at the end of the day, we knew that as long as we give people financial literacy, and if we give people the ability to control not just their savings, but their ability to send money to their family and friends overseas, once we knew that they would understand that, then they would explain to their, congressmen and congresswomen and senators. We knew that they would explain to their local politicians. And it wasn't just going to happen on a large scale first, it was going to happen in smaller countries. And we saw that. Cyprus, Argentina. We saw in these smaller places first that had hyperinflation where the Bitcoin growth grew first. And over time, we see now in America and in these larger superpowers of the world, they're getting a lot more excited about it because, as you say, it's actually a tool for peace.
Great answer. Chairman Joe.
Listen, well, this is President Trump's party, and I'm the chairman of it. And obviously, he's fully embraced crypto and Bitcoin. And it's and ultimately, it's all about freedom. And it's about safeguarding innovation and the freedoms that we all love. But what you've seen is how important it is to be involved in the process. From what you've said for over the last 4 years, it's been completely different. We have to safeguard the entire process, and we have to understand that freedom is not free. You have to participate. Showing up today by having this panel, that's part of the process too. And we have to continue to educate that this is, yes, some certain safeguards and regulations may not be a bad thing, but ultimately anything that would undermine it in any type of permission in terms of having to send it or receive it is unacceptable. And I think that I'm just thankful that you guys are having this program and having this specific panel to talk about the freedom that exists and in what we're doing within this administration to push it forward.
Thanks for that answer.
Well, obviously, a lot of people think it's government trying to do. One of the scares me most is still notion of trying to ban something from the WTF, right?
What?
The beautiful thing. What's that? Like, yeah, I got it before I So yeah, the government obviously trying to ban self-custody would be a horrible thing. On the other hand, this is a really sharp weapon. And there are a lot of us who would just look at them and say, oh yeah, right. Good luck with that. Because, who says you have to live in the United States? Who says you have to obey the government you're under? Who says you have to give up the 12 words that you've got? I mean, this is a technology which allows an individual to be stronger than an army. Unless they can torture the words out of you or kill you, they can't take your wealth. And until Bitcoin was invented, there was never such a thing. You could always, when we overran Iraq, we took all the gold. We overran Libya, we took all their gold. Wars have been fought for thousands of years over land, gold, power, etc. Here you've got digital power controlled by keywords, and individuals are stronger than sovereigns. That's a big deal. That's a
Good luck taking somebody's Bitcoin.
yeah. When I think about what Team Blue wants to do, and Team Blue with Spectrum Crypto, Team Blue is evil as it can be. I get very comforted, or I'm comforted by, the thing. Whenever people talk about this on Twitter, I always say "Molo no pay," which is the ancient thermoplaying war cry. Common fucking take. Today's ethos of the true Bitcoiner is good luck. We got you in checkmate, guys, and you're fucked. We're not fucked. You're fucked.
That's right. You said it today. There's something truly powerful, having an asset that nobody knows you can have, how much you have. Nobody knows who owns it, and good luck trying to take that from somebody, right? It really empowers. It's a tool for human freedom all throughout the world. Here in America, everybody has access, most people have access to a bank account. Although 1 in 10 people get debanked, to 3.5 billion people on this planet don't have access to that. Live under corrupt, authoritarian regimes, so they don't have property rights at all. So now Bitcoin really is, as Michael Snowden said, this visual chemical that underlies everything. It's property rights for all of humanity. Nobody can take them. That's definitely possible.
It's the ultimate peasant's revolt.
I love it. So, Larry, let me ask you this question. I'm just going to tee you up with a bang. I don't know how much time we have here. Not enough. What are your thoughts on the KYC AML regime? Is turning the banking system into police officers at the behest of the government something that helps society, or friction that makes the financial system worse for the 99.99% of honest and hardworking?
It absolutely makes it worse. I mean, it's sick that these people, the government can't just leave us all the fuck alone. They're sick fucks. And what's that? Bring it.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
It's on everybody's heart.
It's Star Wars. They shouldn't be starting and then fund them with money. They print to fund them. We're all just a bunch of evil motherfuckers. So, KYC, AML, come on, give me a break. And it reminds me very much of the notion way back when they say, we're going to start, so they're going to have to pass the $600 exemption on small transactions. They're just going to have to pass it. Because, I'm spending Bitcoin that I bought for $300 for coffee. Do you think I'm reporting the capital gain on a $5 cup of coffee? No. Give me a break. And so the beautiful thing about this is that the technology checkmates. They can't arrest us all, right? And there are a lot more of us than there are of them. So, it's such a beautiful thing. They're completely and utterly fucked. I love it. It's
Wow, yeah.
I hate to say stuff like that. It kind of knows.
Let me ask you. So hold on. I got a question for you. There's an expression: first person through the door gets shot. Yet you're still here and have laid the foundation and inspired many entrepreneurs such as myself. What did you learn from your experience being on the bleeding edge of the nation?
Look, like that day I got arrested, it was actually a watershed day because Coinbase, Kraken, none of them require ID. And that day, KYC became a very important thing for the industry. I got arrested at the first days of 2014. I had my early Bitcoin exchange. And then at the end of 2013, there was a FinCEN guidance that came out that said all Bitcoin companies had to be have certain money transmitter licenses, and then we shut down. And then so I was coming back to the U.S. Actually, was speaking at a conference in Amsterdam, and I was supposed to give a Senate talk the next day, and then I was arrested at the JFK airport, just like the day before that was supposed to happen. And it was a very big, important thing that happened, and it was a gift. At the same time, it was a gift for the Bitcoin industry, and it was a gift for myself. For myself, I can talk to you guys about that another day. But for the Bitcoin industry, my sacrifice ended up being able to prevent a lot of other people from having to go to jail, preventing longer bear markets. It prevented a lot of other bad things from happening. So, look, when my arrest happened, you talk about Team Blue, it was very much that. And the idea was let's push Bitcoin as underground as we can. Let's give them the craziest regulations. Let's put them underground. Let's arrest their leaders. That's the best solution. We know from history that works, right? Well, we see with the president, he actually took on a smart approach and said, let's build good guardrails and let's take this great industry and have positive innovation. I hope this continues for the next 100 years, because that's what we need to do. We need to, at the end of the day, if we can't beat them, we join them. And Bitcoiners have become in the government themselves, and that's what happened. And it's beautiful.
That's
Whatever happened to that BitLicense guy who made all these rules and then he's started his own firm afterwards to make money off of his rules? Whatever happened to him?
Chairman Joe, let me ask you a question here. There's a famous quote by Andreas Antonopoulos. Governments and corporations have fostered a fourth function of money that has subordinated all other functions. System of control. It ensures that political dissent can be effectively snuffed at the bank without appeal or recourse. What's your reaction to this? How can we ensure that Bitcoin remains outside of this function?
Well, I think Andreas is right. Certainly governments and corporations can restrict control, and as a result, it creates a choke point. But first and foremost, let me tell you, Charlie Shrem is a leader in Florida. We're so lucky to have him in the Bitcoin space overall. Everything that he's done, his podcast as a leader. But yes, everything, the government overall has the ability, they can, listen, we've seen what overregulation can do to the market. We could see what a president like President Trump, who's embraced it, we put this in our platform, right? Not as a financial tool, but as a freedom tool. We have people that are willing to stand up and listen. It wasn't a free sailing to put this in the Republican National Committee's platform. This is the president's party. This was his vision. He looks at this, like I said, this is a tool of freedom, and he is embracing it. And I think as a result, a lot of miners and Bitcoiners were sitting on the sideline, but I think a lot of them now have come over to realize that our party is the party of freedom, and we want to continue to operate in that way. And this is just one of the many tools we have.
So one quick follow-up on that. Bitcoin was developed as this tool for privacy. I know you understand the importance of this because you were instrumental in helping Trump collect donations from people anonymously who are scared of political retaliation, getting debanked, or targeted in other ways for supporting his candidacy. How can we protect those characteristics in Bitcoin legislation and remove the worst abuses of the current financial system while building a future that empowers individuals and doesn't treat everyone as potential criminals with due process?
Well, listen, you got to make sure you elect the right people with the right rules in place, because that's ultimately what's going to happen. But even at the Republican National Committee, we've started to receive Bitcoin contributions. But I will say that no contributions to the party itself can be anonymous. Everything has to, we received them. I think we're the first party, one of the first political organizations to receive Bitcoin as a contribution, and we'll continue to be open to receive that. But even that requires us to do certain things in terms of regulatory restrictions that are in place that hopefully, as we move forward under this administration with a forward-thinking president like President Trump, will be lifted up and make it a lot easier for people.
I got a question. I don't want too much time, so I want to ask this one first because it goes to the crux of what our generation is dealing with as millennials. You're uniquely qualified to answer this question. Housing costs and prices. So on a recent Second Point podcast, Tom Wong, he said when he was born in the 60s, his dad was a cop. He purchased a brand new home for $28,000. His mom stayed home and cared for the kids. With a blue collar job, you made somewhere between $24,000 to $35,000. Today, the median annual salary is around $62,000, and the median house price is $433,000. Our generation is the first generation that is worse off than our parents' generation. How has the debasement of the dollar, the detachment from sound money standard, played into these and other second and third order effects? Why does housing have a monetary premium attached to it that didn't exist for hundreds of years prior to 1970? Larry, we can try that too. She just
Yes, this is a really interesting study, actually, because when you look at what happened when they took the gold away from the dollar, real estate became monetized. And after it became monetized, it became financialized. And what does that mean? It means that it became a store of value. And once value was being stored in it, they built financial products around the asset class. So you saw all types of different loans, like a mortgage, home equity line of credit, any type of financial product that you could build around this asset class, they did. And that further drove premium into the asset class because it was being used as a money because the money had died. And when you look at what's happening with wages versus the median home price, prices in the real estate have risen much, much faster than they have in wages, and affordability has crashed. And I think what Bitcoin does to fix this problem is directly related to what we do at People's Reserve. I mean, it's the reason we exist, which is you can secure your Bitcoin as collateral and unlock that purchasing power without giving up ownership. And what does that mean? It means it's a better savings vehicle. And we need to make real estate not be the savings vehicle. And Bitcoin is the savings vehicle. It's a monetary technology. It's a savings technology. And it's our opinion that in the long run, the dollar is a currency. It's not a money. And a currency is a spending technology, right? A lot of people make the mistake that Bitcoin is fighting the dollar, when in fact you store value, you save value in Bitcoin. And who in the right mind would try to compete with the dollar? It's accepted around the world and it's easily spent and understood, but you don't want to save in it, right? So it's like having two different gardening tools. It's like a shovel and a rake. You have to use them together. And I think that's what we've been forced to do. We've been forced to innovate because of the decisions that were made in the past. And when you put Bitcoin up as collateral, something really magic happens. And I think this is the real power that we saw in real estate that has been optimized in the Bitcoin asset class. When you buy your home, it gains value over time. And what happens is, for the vast majority of people, the majority of their wealth is in their home equity. That's a solid truth for 99% of Americans. Only the top 1% have cash flows from businesses and everything else like that. The vast majority of wealth has been put into home equity. But that's not a savings technology. But what did they learn through that? Well, I can borrow against my home. I can get an upgrade, or I can get a rental property and I can rent that out and try to increase my cash flows. What's the goal here? The goal is to increase your quality of life and your standard of living. Well, the best way to do that is to not leverage an asset class that is not a money like real estate, but instead adopt the money, adopt the savings technology, and then leverage that technology by borrowing the dollars against it. So no offense, but I would never donate Bitcoin ever. I would borrow against it and donate the dollars. And then use the cash. But when we look at what's happening, and the premium in housing, it has fallen, but it's fallen because of higher interest rates. And I think with the administration really pushing more so than I've ever seen before for lower rates and better affordability, I hope we get it. But I also hope that there's an awakening that you cannot buy the home like your parents did. And you just gotta get the point. Use the Bitcoin. And then what happens is you get auto delevered. And I'll end on this point. Bitcoin as a pristine collateral is an auto deleveraging mechanism. That's just a fancy way of saying it automatically reduces risk over a long period of time. So even if you don't have a lot of Bitcoin, instead of paying for a private mortgage insurance, instead create a product that allows the buyers to pay into a small Bitcoin savings. And what you'll see is over time, instead of paying into an insurance product that doesn't need to pay out on default, you're paying into the hardest money in the world that very well may outgrow your liability and pay off your home. So now that insurance payment, which delivered nothing except safety for the lender, is now empowering you as the buyer, as it transforms into equity and relieve you of that debt burden. So these are the exciting things I think that we've learned from real estate being monetized, being financialized, and how we can transfer that premium into a better, more pristine asset like Bitcoin.
Great answer.
Yeah.
We got a question for Charlie. As I hear underlying loss, then inspired you to get involved in Bitcoin a decade ago. And what are you most excited about?
What inspired me about Bitcoin a decade ago and what I'm excited about for the future. I got involved in Bitcoin really to make friends. The early Bitcoin community existed on the internet. We were on IRC chat rooms and the Bitcoin talk forums that Satoshi had created. And the idea was simple, like there wasn't, other than PayPal, there wasn't a way of like moving money on the internet in an easy and cheap and nice way, other than Western Union and MoneyGram. And so you had all these people, we were trying to build internet businesses. I had an e-commerce business called dailycheckout.com. People were trying to do charitable work that, I was getting involved in, that has how my PayPal account got frozen. And I didn't like this idea. You talk about money. I didn't like this idea that all of a sudden I'm helping a charity raise money, that PayPal can come and freeze that. Now I love how 10 years later PayPal is accepting Bitcoin. So, that ethos of building that sovereign tool, of being able to build my, I was also falling out of a rough relationship in the very religious community that I grew up in, and I was looking for that independence. And what I saw in Bitcoin was not just the independence that building my own business gave me, but it also gave me that independence to build and save for the future. Now, mind you, Bitcoin wasn't really worth anything, but it created this huge customer base all over the world. So I had dailycheckout.com, and we were selling electronics, and we were selling anything from tables and sneakers and couches and TVs on the internet. And the problem was that when you accept credit cards, you have chargebacks and crazy 3% and even 5% when you're a new business. And you have all these negative things that just are obstacles and hinders to growing your business, to being independent, to putting food on your family's table. And so I started taking the same goods and selling it on the Bitcoin forums that Satoshi created, the same products. All of a sudden I had customers all over the world, and there were no transaction fees. There were no chargebacks. I started selling more things on the Bitcoin forums and in the Bitcoin chat rooms than I was actually selling on my own website.
Wow.
And I was holding Bitcoin. I was like saving it as my own thing because it wasn't worth much. There was no reason to sell it. I decided to buy some more during the first bubble up to $32. I lost my 36, and I lost my shirt of that. But kind of, those are the types of people that we're attracted to. In Argentina, Wences Cesares from Zappo, all these different people. Brian Armstrong, he worked for Coinbase. You worked for Airbnb before. And he saw firsthand how the whole market of people renting and traveling all over the world, how money is different, and you can't accept payments from people in the Philippines who want to travel to Israel, or this whole different crazy world that was happening. So we were attracting all these, over time it's changed, of course. We've had institutional liquidity. We've had different types of waves through bull and bear markets, and that's brought in, all sorts of different people who love Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin is what we want it to be. It's ours. When you own it, when you're part of the community, no one can really tell you what to do. So it's not just with the money aspect, but it's the community aspect of it too. And you see all these debates that happen on crypto Twitter and all the things that are happening all the time it just hardens Bitcoin. These are stress tests. These are the ability for us to go forward. We're working things out. And so I love it. And so you asked me what I'm excited about for the future. Every single day, what I'm excited about is that Bitcoin has given revenue streams to all sorts of new people, new businesses all over the world coming up with crazy new ideas. And I just, it's just so exciting.
It's almost like the free market works or something.
It's the world is a fully free market world that has no obstacles once you're inside of it. As long as the guardrails are there and everything grows nicely, there are no negatives and everything. It's really positive.
Let me follow up on this. Did you have your PayPal account was frozen for your amputee charity? Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, so I was in high school and I was just helping this charity that was raising money for kids who were in terror attacks and the army who needed different like limbs, legs and arms and things like that. And so they were flying in from Europe and from Israel and from all these places into the U.S. because it's a lot. We have the best science community in the world, and we have the most cost-efficient artificial limbs. And so PayPal had just, arbitrarily decided that it wasn't a real charity and they weren't doing real things. And it was a really tough week because we had someone who was literally living at my house. His life was charging in my living room, and we couldn't pay for it because PayPal had frozen the funds. So thankfully, everything worked itself out. But that first week is when I found out about Bitcoin. And I don't know if God did it on purpose or everything kind of, it was serendipitous.
My friend Jorge from the Economic Inclusion Org says that 1 in 10 Americans will be debanked with no recourse or explanation. Is the idea of not being able to face your accuser treated as innocent until proven guilty, anti-American? That's for you.
That's what it was. That's what it was. There was no one that I can talk to.
Yeah. What's the official RNC stance on that, Joe?
Well, listen, we're for freedom. We're for opportunity. And so, listen, what you have to do is you have to create an awareness of any situation that's going on, just like having this forum, just like I know it's live streamed, and getting out there and communicating exactly what you need, what the issues are, and then championing legislation, both at the state level and the federal level, and then embracing elected officials that are going to support those causes. I mean, that's the key to everything. You gotta find people that are supportive and willing to move the ball. You got to embrace them and help them be the champions you want them to be.
I'm going to do a plug for Larry's book here, The Printer. Fantastic book. If you have people in your lives that you want to teach about Bitcoin and understand what's important, everybody should this book. And then if you want to keep your diet, you can watch our 13 solo podcast. Let me ask you a question, Larry. From a geopolitical view,
You said that the game theory makes sense for the U.S. to adopt the Bitcoin standard to advantage Americans and disadvantage our adversaries. Is the U.S. government waking up to this reality, or are they still viewing Bitcoin as a threat to be contained?
Oh, I think they're waking up to it. So we've seen some really, really good things happen. I mean, first, the Trump administration is net positive, a good thing. We know that Scott Besant's gold bug and gold bugs are early stage Bitcoiners. He also supports Bitcoin. We know that. Stephen Moran, who's now on the Federal Reserve Board, he's the chairman of chief economic advisor for Trump. He's a Bitcoiner. He's tweeted he's positive on Bitcoin. And so, yeah, I mean, and we know, I know because I've spoken to Jason Lowry, who wrote Software, and I've met people from the intelligence agencies. We know that at the DOD, CIA, Pentagon, the strategic part of the country understands how important that Bitcoin is as a monetary standard. I was approached at the Las Vegas conference by a gentleman who's actually here at this conference as well, who basically said my book was burning in the halls of some intelligence agencies. And the reason that it is that the intelligence agencies look at all threats to the United States. Hyperinflation is obviously one of the threats. And my book talks a lot about hyperinflation, the risk of hyperinflation. The thing I would say, because I come from this world, is that the two possible things that we're going to go to on a go-forward basis for neutral reserve currency are gold and Bitcoin. And obviously, if you look at tradition, we go towards gold, and central banks have been buying gold like crazy, and that's why the price of gold is just, as Luke Roman says, it goes up every day to ends in Y. And so, we've got this rocketing gold price. Bitcoin's kind of static right now. It'll follow and follow harder, in my opinion. But the point is that, from a geopolitical strategic point of view, we know China has a lot more gold than they say they have. We know India has a lot of gold. And, as countries go, having wealth is an important attribute. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of wealth. We have a lot of debt. But we could defease that with Bitcoin. And if we have to go back to sound money, which I think my book argues that things are good, we're going to ultimately have to return to sound money because the system's so broken, the pain is going to get so large that we're going to demand it. And the two choices are gold and Bitcoin. So the historic reason would be go back to gold because it's been around for 5,000 years. But the smart strategic move for the United States would be to leapfrog gold and just go straight to Bitcoin. And I am absolutely sure that Moran, Trump, Besant, and others, Lutnick, et cetera, are aware of that and have thought about that. Now, whether or not they're going to do it in a 4-year window, I think they might. The reason it'd be a very smart play. And the reason I think they might is my guess is what's going to happen. They're going to come to the end of the Trump administration. and they're going to look at it and say, is JD going to win? No. And if they think JD is going to win, then they've got time because they'll have another 4 years. If they think JD is going to lose and AOC is going to win,
We can talk to like the chairman of the RNC.
yeah, maybe we should talk to the chairman of the RNC, but that looks like it's a possibility. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him trying to replicate what he said and to actually make it based on some combination of Bitcoin and gold, or maybe just Bitcoin.
Can you provide a little bit more insight about what China's kind of doing on this front with gold, how they're kind of hiding that gold?
Yeah.
And a lot of gold. It's illegal to take gold out of the country.
Yeah, so first of all the gold that gets mined in China has to skip law. Second of all, China's been encouraging, since the early 2000s, encouraging their citizens to buy gold. They know it's strategic money. China and Russia are very much aware of how screwed we are economically. And we sucked ourselves over so bad. It's $8 trillion at least of war. I mean, we spent all our money on the wrong shit. They were building nuclear reactors. We were getting guys' arms and legs blown off. It was ridiculous. It's sad. But so China claims to have about 1,300 tons of gold. They have 8,300. We don't have 8,300. They don't have 1,300. They probably have 20,000 tons of gold. How do we know that? Because we know what they mine internally. Let's track it. We know what they mine internally, and we know what they import it. And so they probably have at least 10 times what they say they have, maybe 20 times what they say they have. So, to the degree that we're doing monetary warfare, China has bet big on gold. We know they haven't bet on Bitcoin. They actually don't. I think that may be changing, but Russia gets it. Russia's probably mining it at a state level. But so my sense is that, we know this. We also know, so interesting fact. So they come in and they say, we're going to audit Fort Knox.
I'm still waiting on that audit.
Yeah, me too. Right? And so, the percent says it all. So, yeah, right? Yeah. So, and, no, not in here. Yeah. And so what happens is percent comes in, he gets read in. And what he gets read in on is the fact that those of us who are in the gold community know, because some of my friends knew the people who were alive at the time, that the Johnson administration sold a lot of the gold in the 1960s to defend the London gold pool between 1961 and 1967. So Fort Knox does not have all the gold that they say they have. And so once percent got read in on that, the whole, it's like the Epstein shit. They just kind of, whoa, we're not going to go there. Hey, maybe there's some people who don't want to get there. It's not going to go. So
a famous joke about it's like the president goes to Fort Knox, goes in and says, where the hell's all the gold?
Yeah.
He said, it's not here, sir. He says, double the guard.
Yeah. Newton went down there with his gold digger wife. You didn't see him go. All his pictures of him with the dollar and then standing on the gold.
I think that was the last time Trump played.
So she's married to him. She's like really smart and good looking, right? So, there's some gold there. So.
What's the end game of gold then? If they're like hoarding it.
Can you explain the difference a little bit? Like why we have politicians here, why we're in Washington D.C. Why Bitcoin instead of gold, or should we have both? And that's all.
Yeah. So we're only got 4 minutes left, but that's a really long discussion. You and I had it 13 sessions, but the fact of the matter is Bitcoin's better because it's non-sovereign. Bitcoin's better because it's auditable. It's triple entry accounting. Bitcoin's better because it doesn't grow in supply as quickly as gold does. I mean, there's in so many ways, Bitcoin is just the money of the future, and it will ultimately be the new era, in my view. Our kids will price things in Satoshis, but between here and there, we got to get out of this old trap and into that new world, and it's going to take some time. And they'll probably try gold first because it's more traditional. There could be a parallel of the two. The price of Bitcoin compared to gold is going to go up and to the right forever. It's just going to crush it. But it's still got a ways to go. I mean, Bitcoin's got to go up 10x to have the total size of Bitcoin. Total size of gold.
I think it's even more now, right?
Yeah, well, gold's higher. You're probably right. I don't know what he said. The last one was data. So that implies $1 million Bitcoin, which is why I'm absolutely convinced we'll see $1 million in 6 years. But there's an interesting point here, and that is, do you really want your government to be rich? I mean, do you really want to have a powerful government that has a lot of money? I'm not 100% sure. If you're real libertarian, you kind of don't. But at the end of the day, as bad as our government is, present party excluded. As bad as our government is, I do like it better than this.
I'm leaving you on last thing.
I never get flip. I do like it better than China's government rapid. So I prefer to see us do it.
I will chime in real quick. I just want to say that the president's focused on freedom. He's focused on the long term. He didn't come back just for 4 years for him to be president again. I think he's looking at this as a long road ahead in terms of everything they're building, in terms of the foundation, in terms of the freedoms they're putting into place. And that's why in 32 of the states that track voter registration, we're absolutely crushing our opposition. It's issues like this that they're leading from the front. And I think at the end of the day, again, since we're closing up, I think Bitcoin is a tool for freedom. I think the president recognizes that. I think the administration is all in favor of that and doing everything they possibly can to streamline some of these regulations. And so the president should be supported and applauded for all the work.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Joe, let me follow up on that with a little question. Bitcoin policy is now part of the RNC platform, a historic achievement. As the chairman of the RNC, you have obviously played a large part of that. Can you share some of the behind-the-scenes strategy that elevated Bitcoin to that level? Who was the driving force behind it, and what resistance did you face?
Well, it's easy. It's even though I'm a Bitcoin guy and I've led in legislation at the local and the state level, which is where a lot of this innovation comes up, is through the states. This is the president's party. I'm the president's chairman. He's leading out the front. The platform that we passed at the last convention was his platform. That's what we're pushing forward. I think that's why you're seeing so many people come over to the Republican Party. That's why we've seen 4.6 million voter registrations shift over the Republican side, and it's not over yet. This president is working every single day to try to make America better by working on behalf of the average American worker, the average American business. What other president has led innovative growth in the investment that we've seen from around the world back into American factories and American businesses than this president? This president is focused on winning, and we're going to continue to win. And JD is our finance chairman, and the Republican nominee will win at least for the next 12 years as a result of policies as the president.
We're running out of time here, so I'm going to ask a final question to all of you before we close out here. As we sit here in the Kennedy Center, I'm reminded of JFK's famous quote: "Ask not what your country can do for you, but instead what you can do for your country." So I'll toss a variation of that back to you guys. We all know what Bitcoin has done for us and for you. What can you do for Bitcoin? Start with you, Jen.
I think the most important thing we can do is actually get back to what this conference is all about, which is an education curriculum. And here we're seeing it at the university level, but we really need to get it back to our children. I mean, when I was brought up in school, all I learned about money was how to count it. That's it. Our kids need to learn the difference between money and currency. They need to learn financial planning and hands-on skills like gardening and mechanic and cars. All of this stuff is more important. And when you look at the performance of the US education system, we went from being a top educator with some of the smartest, best workers in the world to being at the bottom of the list, like third world.
Not even top 30.
Some of the people that are on my team and work with me grew up in other countries and are so much better workers than the local Americans. And I don't blame the local Americans, but they got brought up in a horrible curriculum. And that's the problem. Like, yes, we need it at the university level, but you need to teach our children. We need to teach it to our kids so that they can make everybody's life better. And that's our mission too. Do what we can with it to make their life better, and we can build on top.
I think JFK also said, "Ich bin ein Bitcoiner." I've been waiting for so long to make that joke. I've had that for like 10 years. I probably tweeted it. No one has ever liked it. Thank you all for doing that. No, thank you so much. I got into the community to make friends. We met actually during a bear market. You were working at a restaurant, and I was pulling up at my boat that I needed to sell during that bear market. I actually have cases.
It was not. It was
But what we can do for Bitcoin is to continue doing this, have these types of conversations, and remember, like, on the top, we can have all these like divisions and all these fights and everything, but if we are all Bitcoiners, if we all care and believe that what makes the world a better place and from what started from however the world was created was that loving kindness. If we continue putting out loving kindness, we continue giving each person, and the world is built on that. And so I fell in love with Bitcoin because of that. It's like continued every person that I ever meet that says, I love Bitcoin because of you. It just makes my life. So just continue doing that for people. Introduce them to Bitcoin. Don't like push them too hard. When they like it, they'll find their own way in, and they're going to thank you later.
Nice.
Well, I'm going to go back to Florida. I'm still a state senator. We're going to pass that Bitcoin reserve bill that we over.
Let's go!
As the national chairman, we're going to continue to celebrate Bitcoin and accept it. So yes, you can get it any way you want. You can convert it to cash, borrow from it, but it's listen, we're open for business. We're going to continue to win elections. We're going to continue to push freedom as our main message.
Take us out.
Yeah, look, I think it's just a matter of, I think most Bitcoiners understand that sound money is why the world is as broken as it is today. And I don't want my kids and my grandkids to grow up in a world that's like this. I want to grow up more in the world that I grew up in. And so that's why I wrote the book. And the book is a tool that I would encourage you to read, and then I would encourage you to share it with others, because I think the only way we can do this is we need to have a citizenship that understands that this is really the issue. That a lot of, I wrote it because I was watching some blue-red debate, and I was like, these people are arguing about the color of the drapes in the house on fire.
That's how I felt the other day.
I mean, it's just like nobody's focusing on the real issue that matters, and the issue that matters is sound money. If we fix the money, a lot of the other problems will disappear naturally. So I think it really, what we're all called to do is, like, if you want to get involved, it literally starts with, the waitress, my plumber, my electrician, everybody I come into contact with, I'm selling Bitcoin. Down there, download Strike, I'll send you $2. I'm always selling Bitcoin. And a lot of people don't even know about it. And then they're open-minded, they'll listen. Here, take this book, read it. And, slowly but surely, we're going to have just an entire country of Bitcoiners. And, the Federal Reserve isn't going to exist. And it's going to be beautiful.
It's a crazy thought that, for everything that every good in society, we don't have a socialist communist board that sets the price of those goods. But for the most important good in all of society, the price of money itself, we have to have a communist board that's building a $3 billion palace to tell us what interest rates should be. It blows my mind. I mean, it's crazy. Guys, thank you so much for listening today.
Yeah, Matty.
All right, friends. Thank you so much to our panel. Please give another huge round of applause. All right. My friends, we're getting